What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sasquatch Out of the Shadows Live. I'm your host, Alex Pedikov, as always. That was our intro that we're going to start playing now. I've had that as a channel intro since I got to be over a year now, so I figured I'd just start playing that at the beginning of the video. I don't know why I didn't think of that earlier instead of just having that graphic that says Sasquatch Out of the Shadows. So that's going to be the new kind of show intro. So all good on that front. Hope everybody's having a great Monday night. Let's see. Last week we had an awesome show. For folks that are wondering, haven't seen other episodes, there is a playlist on the channel. You can check out all of the previous episodes that we've had. A lot of fun stuff. So last week we talked to Chris Spencer of the Olympic Project, did some audio analysis discussions. He got to play some of the very interesting sounds that he's captured over the years. So that was super cool. Next week, we're actually going to be talking to Jonathan Easley of Western Bigfoot Western Bigfoot Exploration. I was a little late. I was having a rough night tonight, but yeah, that'll be a great show. Jonathan is awesome. He was in Bigfoot at Bluff Creek. He's doing his own documentary about that trip out there this past summer. So it'll be really awesome to talk to him. We're going to talk about the Sierra Mountains, kind of the Sierras. He's been down in that area quite a bit, so that'll be a lot of fun to talk to Jonathan. But for tonight's show, we're going to be talking to Tate Hieronymus. So many folks will know him, of course. Been on the show plenty of times. He's actually been a guest last year, about a year ago, I think almost exactly. Sometime in September, October, I had him on for the first time. We've been good friends. We've become good friends since then, so it's been awesome to travel to various squatching spots with Tate. We've obviously had him on for a couple panel discussions and recap things. So yeah, as Tate's saying in the comments, best guest Sasquatch in the Shadows has ever had on. Yeah, there you go. So without further ado, we'll bring Tate right in. So here's the man himself.
I'm always trying to have fun.
Dude, Tate is all about the fun. I think I saw an earlier comment that was posted on this stream. It said Tate is not a man, he's a movement. So
I saw that. Oh, that's
literal movement because he's moving right now.
There we are.
Yeah. So what's up, Tate?
Just drinking some beer. The classic, not yet sponsored Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Well, here's a comment from Kevin who says I should have grabbed a 6-pack of PBR to drink during the show in honor of Tate.
Wait, I got 2 of them. So
there you go.
In Kevin's honor.
Yeah, Kevin. Hopefully you're all good. He said, called it. Yeah. No, it's pretty well known that Tate's into PBR at this point.
I think it's as much of a fact as Bigfoot is real.
Oh, for sure. It's undeniable at this point, really.
Yeah.
So I want to say hey to everyone in the chat. We got a lot of cool people hanging out with us tonight. We've got the Scottish Wildman. What's going on? Bigfoot Society, what is up, Jeremiah? He says, say hi to your Uncle Bob for me, Tate. Yeah, make sure you do that for me, too. What's going on, Jeremiah? Hope you had an awesome time at the Van Meter Visitor Festival. That looked like a lot of fun. Mothman46 says, great intro. What is up, Mothman? Sandra Piper, hello. Hello to everybody else in the chat. Peggy Curtis says, hi, everyone. How's it going? So Tate, what have you been up to lately, man?
You didn't see what I said, though.
I already read the first, but which one? I already read that, Tate. Come up with a new comment.
No, it was Tate with hard eyes. You got to put it on there.
Oh, okay. There you go. Francesca says, hey, Alex. Hi, Sandra. Hello, Tate. Howdy, folks.
Hello.
What is going on? So what's up with you, Tate? What's going on? What are you up to?
I'm in depressing Florida.
Oh no skunk apes, huh?
I haven't had time. I've been working ever since I got back because I was in debt. The trip set me back, man.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, you drove pretty much from Florida to Oregon and California along the way. Give people an idea of the route.
Practically, so let me give you an idea of the route. So basically starting in Miami, because I'm only about 40 minutes out of Miami. So that's kind of the area I tell people. So yeah, I drove up from like Miami through, what was that, like Birmingham, Alabama, Memphis, Little Rock, Branson, Missouri, up through Kansas City, out through Kansas, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Southern California. I was there for at least 2 weeks. Then I drove up from Ventura, California to Willow Creek to meet up with you guys. Then Portland, and then just kind of circled the top half of the United States back down.
It's wild. What a trip. I mean, that's a lot of miles. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So for folks that don't know, that was he's talking about a trip that he took working on this film that we're going to be talking about. That was this past summer. He met up with us in Southern California with Eli, Watson, and myself. Together, we went up to the Redwoods, stopped by San Francisco on the way, made it up to, as I mentioned, the Redwoods, hung out with Bobo, spent our time at Louse Camp, which was awesome. And then Eli and I took off for Oregon, and you met up with us later on up there in the Mount Hood area, actually at Cliffs Museum, the North American Bigfoot Center, and we spent some time out there. So pretty awesome stuff. Just a plug, obviously, for Beyond the Trail. Bigfoot Mountain just came out over on the Small Town Monsters channel. That is featuring Tate, as well as other researchers. And that is kind of the Mount Hood area. It's already at, I think, almost 80,000 views within.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, within the past few days. So check that out. That just freshly came out this past Thursday. Also, Bigfoot at Bluff Creek, which features Tate as well as Jonathan, who's going to be on the show next week. So check those both out. There's a playlist on my channel too for all the Beyond the Trail episodes. And this is just a random plug I forgot to mention earlier, but this Thursday I will be releasing my documentary.
Oh, that's right.
Lions of the East. So this is a documentary I did a few years ago, and a lot of people know about it that are into the Bigfoot stuff that maybe have started following me in the past year or two. This is something I worked on previously, and it unfortunately came out right when COVID started. This is the DVD. It was supposed to premiere in mid-March. That's right when the lockdowns began, which kind of sucked. So nothing really happened with it. I never premiered it. So I'm just going to show it on YouTube and people can check that out. So that's just a random plug. But moving on, Mothman says Interstate Tate. I think that's a new nickname.
Interstate. Wait, my name is in there twice.
Interstate Tate. Yeah, it's got to be a little redundant.
It is redundant.
Is Tate on the no-fly list? Why drive all that way when flights are so cheap?
Well, Kevin, I will explain to you, and you might understand this. Before my trip, I wanted to order a ton of these. So what happened was, I was like, "Can I get a case or 4 cases?" Thinking a case was a box of 12 of these. A case was 2 boxes of 12 bottles. So it ended up being 98 bottles. And I really wanted my beer with me, so I couldn't really take that on a plane.
Wild.
And
well, also, I mean,
all my gear too, man. It's just
right. I was gonna say you have all this other equipment. Price wise, I mean, sure, gas prices are not cheap anymore, but if you're looking at flying and renting a car and spending gas, probably just taking your own car at that point is cheaper.
Yeah, and it's with COVID, I'm not really worried because I was vaccinated, but it still cuts down the limit amount of people that I have to be around.
True. Yeah, and I don't know, it's just more comfortable. I flew because Eli obviously had a car out in LA. I wasn't going to drive all the way out there, but
no, but I did.
Yeah. So I mean, hey, props to you.
And I'll do it again.
Says loved Bigfoot Mountain, awesome. Patrick McGuire says Bigfoot at Bluff Creek was awesome. Thank you guys. Also, shout out to all the folks I saw at the this past weekend at the Whitehall Sasquatch Festival and Calling Contest. Super fun event in historic Whitehall, New York, which is kind of the Bigfoot capital of the East Coast at this point, at least here in the Northeast. It was a lot of fun. So many great folks. I met a couple of you guys actually that came out. We had at least 5 or 6 people that told me they had seen recognized me from Beyond the Trail, but there's also a few people who are viewers of the channel. So shout out to those channel viewers that are out there at the Whitehall Festival. Hopefully it'll be a great
You got fans,
time.
Alex.
Yeah, dude, it was really cool. There was actually somebody was saying that they recognized Connor Anderson from the Bigfoot Mountain episode and not for being the curator of the museum, which I think is funny. But I mean, it makes sense. People in the East Coast probably haven't been to the museum as much.
Yeah,
because it's all the way out in Oregon. But anyway, Mothman 46 says, I have a signed copy of Lions of the East in my collection. That's how I roll. Yeah. One of the few, because I haven't made any DVDs of that in quite a while.
You guys won't believe what I'm getting. A signed copy of my own film. It's
amazing. Absolutely amazing. Kevin says, I'm pretty sure they sell PBR from coast to coast like butter and toast. That's a good rhyme.
Yeah, but it's just this is my trail companion. It's what I had to keep me company.
Yeah, it was just Tate and a whole bunch of beers.
It was like my back seat you saw the back seat. It was all beer cases.
Yeah, it was Tate, when he would go to sleep in the bed of his truck, it was
I had to move the
hugging a whole case of beer, and yeah.
I used it as a pillow, whatever.
Wild. But so obviously you were out there with us. It was fun to hang out and everything, but what was the inspiration for wanting to do this film? Like what was the kind of the motivation behind it?
Really, it was just boredom. I wanted to get out and do another project though, because I did that first one a few years ago that I had Holiday Reinhorn, which is wife of Rainn Wilson. She narrated it, and I was like, I liked the way it turned out for what it is, but at the same time, I did not, because I had this idea in mind of what I wanted, and it never turned out that way. And I feel like it is that way with a lot of things. A lot of people do sometimes, even with music. You can write something and it ends up being something different. So that's kind of what happened. And I was like, well, I kind of learned what I want to do and what I shouldn't do, filming wise and editing wise and all that. So I was like, I want to do this. Plus, the whole thing that I have, which we can talk about later, sleep paralysis. I was like, I've never seen that in a documentary. Let's do that. So that was kind of really the inspiration. It was a lot just due to boredom, and that I kind of wanted to redo myself or outdo myself and see where it led me.
Fair enough. No, that's cool, and I like that angle of the kind of the sleep paralysis thing. Now, what I'll do here is, let me see. I'll pop up the poster, so the poster is the sort of image for this video. So for folks watching afterwards, you will probably see that as the thumbnail. But let me share the screen now, will it? There we go. So here's the poster. I have no idea what I'm doing here. It's sometimes it gets confusing with the double monitor setup. Okay.
Yeah.
Full screen. There we go. All right. So here's the poster. So we can see that right here. So yeah, it looks pretty cool. Very simplistic, uncovering the truth of Sasquatch. And obviously you've got quite a cool lineup here in the people who are in the documentary. So obviously narrated by Jonathan Easley, again, who's going to be a guest next week, who is awesome. Yep. Good friend of ours. This guy, Alexander Pedikov's in there. You know, his name is misspelled, but you know, whatever. He's probably some jerk anyway.
Yeah, I hate that guy.
Eli Watson, that guy, him too. He's a little wishy-washy. I don't know.
You can never trust a name with someone like Watson.
Exactly. You've got Austin Brown, Matthew Lowe, who I believe is Rob Lowe's son, right?
Yeah, it's his oldest son.
So he would have been on the Lowe Files, right?
Lowe Files. Yep.
Awesome. So it's cool. He's into Bigfoot too, just like his dad. Rowdy Kelly of the Bluff Creek Project podcast. Bluff Creek Project. Too many things going on. Cliff Barrickman, obviously people know him. James Fay, that's James, aka Bobo Fay. Tate Hieronymus, so he's in his own movie, of course. He's got to have his name there a couple extra times.
Well, whatever.
I'm just messing with you. Jesus Payan, who's awesome. Breaking Bigfoot, had him on the show this past spring, I believe.
For people who don't know who that is, he's an actor in television. He plays Gonzo, which is a small role, I think, in the second season of Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I think he came in either the end of the first season or in the second one, but he's the one of the henchmen of Tuco Salamanca, of the big bad guy that Walter and them first experienced. So awesome. I mean, we had him on the show. He's a cool researcher. He's into Bigfoot. So
and he was on an episode of Finding Bigfoot, the Four Corners episode.
He's actually done a lot of different acting stuff. I remember I was looking up his IMDb when I had him on the show. So then we've got Connor Anderson, obviously, of the North American Bigfoot Center. Ron Reed, who's a friend of ours. Jeremiah Byron, who's in the comments somewhere. We'll maybe watching the show. Jeremiah, Bigfoot Society, awesome. And then Mr. Daniel Perez of the Bigfoot Times, aka the Bigfoot Times. Just kidding. It used to be the spelling for Bigfoot Times was Big Foo and then Times. It was a creative choice. I think it's cool, but Daniel has obviously been around for quite a while. I mean, he's one of the. I mean, he's been in it since at least the 80s and 90s, from what I understand. Really knowledgeable researcher.
I got lucky with the people that agreed to want to be in this, and they're all friends. So like we have the same interests, and we know a lot of the same people. So it's like it's just people helping each other out. So it was really cool, and it's blessed.
Oh no, totally. I feel like that's how Beyond the Trails go in a lot of cases. I mean, I interviewed obviously all of you guys down at Louse Camp. And for Bigfoot Mountain, but we were all out having a good time as friends, so it makes it easier. It's not as kind of awkward sometimes as it is when you're interviewing people. So it's always fun when you know the person.
Yep.
Mothman 46 says, Kevin, I know a guy that knows a guy that knows Alex.
I'm pretty.
There's a lot of those out there.
I feel like that was a Breaking Bad reference.
Probably. I don't know. Is it? I'm not getting it. Either way, yeah. But I know a guy who knows a guy who definitely knows a guy who knows Bob Hieronymus, who's actually Bob Hieronymus's nephew. That's Tate Hieronymus. So just throwing that out there.
Wait, but I know the guy.
Yeah, you know the guy. But anyway, awesome. So yeah, cool poster. Good stuff.
So speaking of real, like, I guess an Easter egg for people who actually care about the podcast that I help do, the center middle piece, like inside the writing, the font, words, whatever you want to call it, that is actually the logo for our podcast.
Oh, really?
Yep. So
wait, what do you mean?
Okay, so the guy with the flashlight in the middle.
Yep. That's you?
No, that's Robert Leiderman, but
that's also
the logo of our podcast.
Oh, I know that. I thought you meant the font was the logo.
No.
I'm looking for the Bluff Creek Project podcast, like hidden somewhere in the text. I'm like, what is going on here?
I'm sorry. I meant to say, like, I said that weird, but whatever.
No worries.
Everybody's got it now.
But yeah, so how long is the movie?
42 minutes and I want to say 43 seconds, maybe 32. I can't remember.
Nice. So it's pretty much almost a feature. I mean, that's right along I think feature is like 45 minutes. So right up to there. So that's pretty awesome. So before we play that clip, you want to maybe tell folks a little bit about kind of what is covered in the documentary? I know you mentioned obviously the sleep paralysis angle, but what else is covered in the doc?
So it's what's covered in the doc. It's my thermal sighting. So I had Austin Brown, who was with me when I filmed something in Southern California. So we kind of just go over that. And I actually showed drone footage of the very ridge that had happened on that night. So that ridge you're seeing when you're hearing the narration talk about it, that's actually the ridge that it happened on. So it gives people an idea what the area looks like from a few different angles. And then you can have me and my friend Austin there telling about it, like, kind of, because when it's in the fresh in our mind, we're there. It's like, man, now we can talk about this, and it's even more fresh because we were just there the night before and looking at everything. So it talks about that, and then I'm trying to decide. It's like chapters, this film. So like, the second chapter, if you will, is in Bluff Creek. So we meet up with you guys and go out to a few different areas in the Bluff Creek area. And then the third part section, it was about sleep paralysis. Then the other part's about Iowa. So Iowa's a place dear to me in my heart. So I had to get it in there.
And that's cool. That's not really an area that's covered much in terms of Bigfoot research. I mean, I don't know I think, did Finding Bigfoot do an episode out there?
They did, yes, in the northeast corner of the state.
That's probably the only thing I'm aware of, aside from maybe YouTube videos about Bigfoot in Iowa, that's ever really done. So that should be cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like it was something I wanted to try. So, and I will say the film, like I like the way the film is because it's kind of fast paced, but at the same time, I think it gets the message across and information across fairly well. So, I mean, what do you think? You've seen it. I sent you a link. If you didn't see it, no worries.
No, yeah, it's awesome. I mean, obviously, I'm a little biased because I was there for a lot of the filming, but I like the. Obviously, I wasn't there for the LA part or the IO stuff. So, like I said, I think that's kind of cool for me. But yeah, it's fun to see what was going on at Bluff Creek from another sort of perspective. Kind of, we were going through that same thing, and obviously, I have Bigfoot Bluff Creek, and that's what I'm excited about talking with Jonathan next week too, because he has his version that's going to be coming up. So we're all experiencing the same events, but talking about it in different ways. So
That's exactly what I liked about it because like we had tie-ins with everybody here,
yeah,
especially the Bluff Creek. And so you see that in like everybody's footage. It might be like, oh, we've seen this, yeah, but at the same time, it's the other person's perspective of what happened there, and they kind of give their thing on it. So, and they might
yeah,
do things differently with editing. So, I mean, but it's still really cool nonetheless. So, I think that's awesome.
no, for sure. So what do you say we put the clip on here, and we're going to show about 3 minutes of the film. So we'll pop that in now, and we'll be back in 3 minutes, guys. So I see there's questions coming in. We'll start taking those after. So see you guys in a few minutes.
Los Angeles, California, known for film and television, Hollywood, famous sights, and beautiful coastlines. But there's something else that California is known for. Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Oma, Hairy Man are just a few names that the creature is referred to as. But it wasn't until October 1958, in the Bluff Creek area of Northern California, that a road logger named Jerry Crew casted the first tracks belonging to a creature with large humanoid-looking feet. As a result, the name Bigfoot was coined. But is the legend of Sasquatch today just an isolated event, or is it all over the US? And what about places like Southern California, where it's very dry and has a desert-like environment? Is it possible that Sasquatch can live there?
I mean, it's funny because you have reports off the beaten track of what you would call Bigfoot country, and whether we have the proper habitat here, I don't know if that's really true. Maybe it's too dry, maybe there's not enough food. But say, for instance, a person might go from one good area through a desert. Say if it were a pioneer on a horseback, that person might go from one good area where it's rich in water and food to another area that's rich in water and food. But to get there, you have to go through the desert. So that might be the reason why we see reports in areas that you normally don't expect them to have them.
I think there is viable Sasquatch habitat across the United States and into Canada as well, in North America in general. Not everywhere. There's certainly plenty of urban areas, places in the Midwest where there's not a lot of cover, not a lot of resources, not a lot of wildlife in general, farmland, deserts, that kind of stuff. But there are pockets in those areas.
Yeah, like Southern California, the Grapevine, through that zone, definitely Squatch. I mean, it's not like up here, they don't got tons of resources, but there's enough, but it might be a better place to go squatch, especially this drought's worsening and worsening. And they got those big lakes there, but if you got, at least 10 miles away from those big lakes, and you get out there like September when it's just bone, like this year especially, when it's bone dry, you might have a better chance going there than up here because there's less places for, I mean, they could be anywhere up here. There's water everywhere.
Right on. Awesome. Man, wish we could just keep watching the whole thing.
I know. I ran downstairs to grab another beer during the
during the little break. Yeah, that was fun. I mean, obviously, as you guys could see there, just from that clip, pretty cool narration. Obviously, as people are asking in the comments who's narrating, and it's Jonathan. So that Kevin
Jonathan.
Hamilton says, "Who is doing the narration? That isn't Tate's serious voice, is it?"
I wish.
And then Jonathan responds, narration is off the hook. This is Jonathan's channel, Western Bigfoot Exploration. Go check him out as well. He will be on next week, as I mentioned quite a few times. So, yeah,
John, I want to real quickly. I want to make a few plugs to Jonathan real quickly. He has 2 videos up on YouTube about going to Bluff Creek. So,
yeah,
I mean, those are really good videos. And he got something weird, which is
Very
featured in Bigfoot at Bluff Creek, actually.
Totally. I want to talk to him about that next week, because when I was doing my research before heading to Bluff Creek, there were almost no good videos about what the site looked like or what the nature was in that area. And his videos, I probably watched them both 5 or 6 times a piece just in the leading up to that trip. So,
oh, they're so good.
They're awesome. Yeah. And we'll talk to him about that next week, and hopefully maybe show a clip of his upcoming film as well. I don't know.
I hope so.
I haven't talked to him about it, but I'm sure he'll be fine with that. But yeah, so really cool. Obviously, you guys saw there's a bunch of cool interviews just in that clip alone. That was about Southern California and the kind of California Sasquatch phenomenon. Bobo was in there. You had Daniel Perez, myself. Just really cool.
I think I spelled your name wrong too in the editing. Yeah,
it happens quite often, but either way, let me want to start taking some questions. I know there was one from Mothman 46 who says, "Did any other projects or films affect your style of filming this documentary?"
Not really. I mean, I think everybody has their influences, and that might come across in some small way, whether I think so or not. Other people might notice it, but I guess not really. Maybe I like different angles, weirder angles than traditional filming. I think that kind of crooked shots and not straight on. And that's something like a lot of Steven Spielberg and even Quentin Tarantino does, or those kind of weird looking shots. So I kind of did that after that, or styled the shots after that, if there is any. I don't know. Yeah, I guess those 2 guys would be some of my influences in filmmaking.
That's fun. I don't know what this question is, but Jonathan asks, "Do they, the Iowa Squatch, the Elote Man? I heard he rings the bell and sells corn from a shopping cart."
I don't think that's Sasquatch.
What? What's that? What does that mean?
I don't know.
Jonathan, you're gonna have to clarify that. I cannot, for the life of me, understand what is going on with that.
It doesn't make any sense.
Oh boy. Mothman 46 says camels thrive in the desert. So yeah, there's an example of a large mammal that is adapted to living in the deserts. But yeah, I mean, on that topic, Bigfoot in the desert, there have been reports in New Mexico, Arizona, Southern California, other areas of Sasquatches either in desert-like areas or just passing through. I found that concept really interesting.
Yeah, and that's Southern California is weird because it's it is desert, but at the same time there's a lot of animals out there like deer and bear and mountain lion. So I mean, if they're in the desert kind of environments, and I don't know why you couldn't have Sasquatch, but at the same time I feel like the area that I'm in Southern California it's like a mix between desert and kind of rainforest in a weird way, if that makes sense.
Really?
Well,
it looks like Ponderosa pine forest to me, but
I just feel like it's the southernmost tip of California that has thick forest area in the state. I don't know. I'm just speaking now.
Well, the areas that you show in the film where you got that weird footage are actually really interesting. I mean, there were some shots in that sequence that I showed that highlighted that. They were a lot, it's dry, but there's forest cover. And that reminded me of certain areas I've seen in Colorado and Utah where it's not quite the mountainside forest, but it's the elevation in that area is still pretty high. I mean, there are deer and other animals you mentioned that move.
Yeah.
Certainly mountain lions.
And that's what's weird about that area. I think Jonathan commented on this. It's like when I showed him the area, it's like, man, it's like really desert at the bottom. And then when you get up in this high elevation, it changes, like the ecosystem. It's weird. And some of the places really thick in forest was just another mountain over, probably within a 30-minute drive. And then there's just forest everywhere, and there's rivers up there and stuff. So it's really weird how it goes from desert, and the higher you get, it goes to forest.
Yeah, and that's where more viable habitats would probably be. And I mean, that's like in the Sierra Nevada mountains, right? One side of the Sierras is pretty dry, and then the other side is where you get those forests and sequoia
because Bakersfield is right down there, and then you go up to the Sierra.
Almost that Central Valley kind of area, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Sierras over there.
It's very different. Jonathan, he clarified. I guess it's a SoCal thing. You will see Mexican dudes selling corn from shopping carts on the daily. Io is known for corn. See the joke? I'll be here all week, folks. Well, maybe
that joke was corny.
There you go. Brian and Chewy go hiking. What's up? Hello, everyone. Late as usual. What's going on, man?
I thought he said late as casual.
Oh no. Late as usual. Heaven Bound Honor says looks good in terms of this was at 8:27, so that was when the film would have been playing. Jessica says looks good. Wish it were longer altogether. I know, like I said, let's just show the whole movie right now.
Yeah, I wish the movie was longer. Period.
For sure, but what was I gonna say? Where can people watch it ultimately once it's all said and done? Because it says October 20th on the poster, right?
Yeah, October 20th will be the release date for this film. And it's going to be on my personal YouTube channel, so just my name on YouTube.
Cool. I think I've linked that in the comments. So that's awesome. So yeah, that's a little under a month at this point.
Yeah,
right in time for Halloween too.
It's more for the Patterson Gimlin film, the anniversary. So it's like, that'd be nice. Cool. Let's just do that.
Yeah, and obviously there's parts that are at the PGF site and in that area at Bluff Creek, so that seems pretty fitting.
That was yours, Eli's, and my first time camping there.
Yeah, Jonathan had been there once before, but I mean that was an experience. It was just super cool being down there. I mean, we talked about it a little bit when we did the recap after we came back with all of us. There was that incident with Jonathan having the acid reflux.
Oh my god!
You thinking it was the bear?
I swear to God, you guys are out. Ron's like way over at this other end of the film site, and Jonathan and he's sleeping like downhill, like his head slanted downwards on the downslope, and so he had acid reflux. And I swear to God, it woke me up and freaked me out. I thought there was like a bear near our tent or something.
Yeah. So Brian says, looking forward to watching Tate. Mothman 46 says, technically living above the tree line in the mountains would be as harsh as living in the desert. Yeah, it's not easy up past the tree line in any kind of area in the mountains. So that's the whole thing about the Yeti, right?
I don't know. Like, I think it depends on the area.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know for the most part, most areas like above the tree line, definitely very harsh. Out here in New Hampshire, you get above the tree line on some of the mountains up here, and it's subarctic, and it's brutal weather.
Well, I think most
places.
I think like in Southern California, I mean, in the wintertime, there does get snow.
They still get snow, yeah. I was gonna say,
but like I think during the summer, it'd be the best place to want to be because you're higher up and there's more of a breeze going through
above the tree line, though. I mean,
up
where there's no cover.
Yeah, up there is actually really windy.
Yeah, right. I'd imagine more. I mean, I don't know how big the peaks are in that particular area.
The area that I'm in is like where the Santa Ana winds come through all the time.
Okay.
So it gets really windy up there. And like I've gone out there to do squatching before, and it's like you get skunked out because there's so much wind everywhere. It's like you can't hear garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of other reports like what Daniel was talking about in the clip that we played. I know Eli's talked about this, and so has Todd Hale of the Olympic Project and Shane Corson. They all used to live in Southern California and looked into Bigfoot in that area. And there's quite a few stories down, actually, even south of LA. I've heard of reports border patrol people near San Diego seeing things.
Well, this is what I was talking to you guys about a while ago in a private chat, because I was like, I used to live in Mexico for like 3 years in Sonata, and there's a place not too far from where I live. It's almost like the terrain is identical to Southern California,
right?
In certain areas. So, and I talked to Kathy Strain about it. She also thinks there could be. So, not just the people you mentioned, but everybody else I mentioned.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. I might have to ask Kathy about that. Having Kathy Strain on the show in a few weeks here, I think in October. So, yeah, it's really interesting. But I think there's one that Eli was mentioning. I can't remember the name of it. Something I don't even want to try it. Something Churi. It was like a Spanish sounding name.
Churro Taquito.
It was actually something. The Wildman Barusco or something like that. I'm probably butchering it. I don't know if Jonathan Easley might know, given that he's been a SoCal guy. But yeah, he also, Jonathan comments, yes, desert to dry alpine forest, very large wilderness with no roads or structures. Tate's footage is legit. I went from, I don't know, to wow, Tate filmed a Bigfoot. So yeah, that's what's so cool about your footage, is that you really, I mean, you went out there and were able to go to that same spot, and that's what you show that in the film. That's shown in the film.
It's the first time this has ever been public too,
right, which is awesome. I mean, we showed it a little bit, I think, when we did a panel with Jeremiah and
I think
Greg.
We showed a photo of it.
Yeah.
So, and this was filmed in 2017. And for people who don't know, I think the worst places to go with footage is YouTube, or even Facebook and Instagram. But that's why I wanted to
first.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to do something up there. Yeah, go up there and kind of show what we did in the area, what it looks like. Because guess who recommended this place to me? Cliff Barrickman was like, yeah, that's a place you should go to. It's a good area. And Matt Moneymaker said he found tracks there one time.
Nice.
And so that night was actually my first time using a FLIR. And I think we've talked about this numerous of times on different podcasts, you and I, about how important it is to get familiar with your equipment, because if you don't know what you're doing, you're not really going to see anything. And especially when it's at a distance. So that night was the night that I really did get lucky with something, and I could not see what I was filming until I got home the next day and played it on a computer, bigger screen. I was like, oh my God. It was right there.
Yeah, for sure. Mothman says SoCal equals Normex. So yeah, I mean, you look at California, people forget that California ends in California. It actually, you got Baja California, which it's similar climates. I mean, aside from just a human border, it's pretty much the same in terms of climate and terrain and that kind of stuff. And you got some pretty cool mountains up there in northern Mexico as well.
That's reports of
grizzly bears. Yeah, reports of grizzly bears still in that area, supposedly. Lots of cool stuff. Kevin Hamilton says northern Bigfoot has Dogman for a buddy. Mexican Bigfoot has Chupacabra friends. There you go. So yeah, I got another question earlier. People were asking about where is this? Patrick McGuire asked, anyone know what happened to Bobo? We've been getting that question so much on Bigfoot at Bluff Creek.
We do know what happened, but people still.
No, I think because people are so they're used to seeing him on Finding Bigfoot, where he was definitely a little, let's say, bigger. He's thinned out a lot. So a lot of the recent videos and interviews that he's done, including our films, have shown him. I mean, it's been years since they filmed the last Finding Bigfoot. So
I mean, the last Finding Bigfoot episode was the
special they would have done last year, but
the Bluff Creek one. So I mean, he was about as skinny and still hairless at that episode.
Right.
Even the very like the second to the last season, the same thing.
Right. Yeah, people people I guess were kind of shocked. I don't know. We got so many comments. That's probably a third of the comments on Bigfoot at Bluff Creek are about asking
Bobo.
about Bobo. Yeah. So
Even
I
the
mean,
ones on the new episode, I think, are asking about him still. I'm like,
yeah,
geez.
right. So we hung out with him. He seemed fine. He's obviously probably better to be a little thinner and not have all that weight,
He
especially
was
for hiking around
making
the woods.
us look bad by like we were crawling down that mountain. He was jumping down it.
Oh yeah, he was going up there, and he's a lot older than all of us. We were sleep deprived and traveling from Southern California to Northern California in one day.
I think
I'm going to use that as my excuse.
He's okay.
I flew across the country, drove from LA to the Redwoods to Willow Creek in the span of about 36 hours. So, anyway, Patrick says, just hoping he was okay. That's all. Yeah, no, absolutely. He's fine. There's a lot of rumors swirling around. He seemed okay. At least this was when we last saw him. So obviously we wish him well.
Well, if you listen,
oh my gosh, listen to this. Bobo never looked more confused than the time he was interviewed by Robby Knievel. That's for that movie.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Kevin, I'm glad you've seen that. Eli and I watched that Robby Knievel film, I guess you can call it.
I watched it when it came out.
We watched that because obviously a lot of Bluff Creek members were in it, and Bobo was in there. But I remember him talking about it. We watched it on the drive back from Colorado, and it was so funny. It was insane. It was just what a strange film. I mean, it became. We weren't making fun of it. We were just. There were some bizarre comments and the way things were filmed that just made us chuckle. And then we were in our group chat with Jonathan and yourself. We were talking about it, and we had a bunch of running jokes about it. So I appreciate that Kevin has seen that.
I called Bobo, and he was saying, "Yeah, I'm helping Rowdy with this Evil Knievel thing, or Robby Knievel thing." And he was telling me, he's like, "Yeah, I was with Robby in the RV, and he's like flying around." These roads from like Orleans to Willow Creek, and
we got to get Eli on here. I think he memorized this entire sequence. That this guy,
really?
He memorized this entire speech that one of the guys in that film gave about an ignorant race of scientists and all this other stuff, and just it's wild. Yes, the Robby Knievel doc. Yeah, Jonathan saw it too because we were egging him on. Brian says that was a joke. He knew nothing about Bigfoot at all. The dude even confused Bobo. Yeah, there was a couple parts where he said something along the lines of, "Oh, we're about to go out with the most famous and well-known Bigfooters, but I know more about Bigfoot than them." And then he's asking if Renee DeHinden is a girl at one point. He's like, "Is Renee a boy's name or a girl's name?" And he's like, "Oh, what's the Patterson film again?" There's, if you haven't seen it, Michael Byrne. He's listing off the four horsemen of Bigfootery, and just Michael Byrne gets included there in the end. So if you haven't seen that and you're into this subject, go watch it. You might like it. I liked it just because I found it funny the way that they did things, and the weird like 90s retro music.
Robby Knievel's like Michael Byrne, Bob Titties.
Yeah. Oh my God. So I don't know. It's a crazy film. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Yeah. As Brian says, it was a comedy, I believe. I don't know if they were trying to go for that, but it seemed to come out that way.
I thought I saw that Kevin Farley produced it.
Oh, I have no idea.
No, I'm totally kidding. That was a joke.
But yeah, so yeah, it's quite a film indeed. But yeah, back to your film. So, in terms of the Iowa section, let's talk a little bit more about that. I mean, what was the inspiration behind doing that?
Well, I was born I grew up in Des Moines, the Des Moines area, so I think it was just really important to me because I liked the state, and I really thought this place would be really squatchy, and like I grew up hearing stories from friends that lived there that had sightings before. And so I was like, man, I really want to see this. I mean, other than like we talked about earlier, Finding Bigfoot film there. Nothing really else has come out of there. And so I was like, when I moved back from living in California after I'd been like out in the woods squatching before and all that, I was like, I moved to Iowa. I was like, I need to find a place to go. So I found a place pretty close to me. Sure enough, I did get a wood knock. I can't remember if I sent that to you in the chat before or not, but
I think I've heard it at some point.
There was definitely a knock there, and this was not too far from Van Meter. So shout out to Jeremiah.
Van Meter, we got to go there and see it when we drove through Des Moines. He took us to Van Meter. It's just right outside of Des Moines.
So the place where I heard that knock is Earlham, Iowa, which is not too far from Van Meter, which is not too far from West Des Moines where I was living at the time. And there's another place in southern Iowa where I was going that I didn't get much of anything there at all. And so I was like, well, that sucks. And then we moved to Florida. And then it wasn't until this trip, like literally when I was in Iowa, I decided to reach out to Steve Moon, who's a member of the BFRO in Iowa. And sure enough, I think Jonathan or Jeremiah sent it to me. They're like, oh, I think it was Jeremiah because he's from Des Moines, Bigfoot Society.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, dude, those guys, this Bigfoot research group in Iowa got some audio, and it was Steve Moon.
Oh, cool.
I know he was in the BFRO, so I reached out through the BFRO to him, and he let me use some of the audio that they recorded in the same forest that I was working in the same year.
Nice.
But different times of the month. So I knew that place was squatchy. I knew it. It had the right ingredients and right location, and there was deer there for sure. So I knew it was a good area.
Right on. I did want to read this comment from Joe. He says it's worth watching for the laughs for the Knievel film. What's up, Joe? Joe, Wild and Weird, West Virginia. He's been on the show as well. Awesome.
Let me see.
Awesome guy.
Oh, Joe. Joe makes those little prints.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
I want to.
So while Joe's in the comments, I want to tell him this. I took his little prints that he made with some Bluff Creek sand that I had extra. I made an imprint and I poured plastered in with the actual sand from Bluff Creek. So this is a plaster version.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. So it's got some actual Bluff Creek sand, the kind of that sand that was deposited in the 1964 flood. That's seen right in the background. That gray sand you see, that was from that flood, and that's why those, as you know, was explained to us while we were there. That's why the impressions were so good in the substrate there.
Do you guys see the signature there?
I think it's a little too far away.
Right here on the log, Bob did one.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
I had him sign it.
Good stuff. Patrick McGuire says Squatch, Iowa is a very good documentary. I haven't heard of that. Have you heard of it?
I'm gonna look it up tonight.
Yeah, that might be kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, there really hasn't been a whole lot Iowa-wise. And I think a lot of people kind of discount the Midwest in general.
I think that's really immature to really discount the Midwest because just because it's an area where you don't think a Bigfoot would be in doesn't mean that it wouldn't be.
Well, there's still woods.
It's like exactly like in the little clip you showed. I think you said there's pockets in these areas of these states that wouldn't necessarily be like a perfect habitat, but like you said, there's pockets.
Sure.
And I guarantee you, there's different pockets in every state that could have something, and kind of like what Daniel said. So let's imagine like the Midwest is kind of a desert environment, because north of like the Midwest you got like Montana and Minnesota, and that's pretty wooded up there, and then further south, like in Oklahoma and Missouri and Kentucky, it's pretty wooded. So I think they travel through there, and if they're traveling through there, they're going to be in the most forested pockets of those states at the time they're traveling. So I think it could be just the time of year you're there and where they're going to be at. But yeah, I think that's why they're there. I think they're definitely there when they travel through.
For sure. Yeah. No, and that's, I think, what I said in the doc too is I think there's different types of viable habitat. I mean, I think of like a local example here in the New England area. People always talk about the Bridgewater Triangle, which is south of Boston, surrounded by a lot of urban areas. There's still a good amount of woods in that area, but I don't know if it's a huge enough area to support a group of these things for a while, maybe, but passing through totally. And it makes sense for the Midwest. As you said, you got the Wichita Mountains down in Oklahoma. It's a fantastic spot. I mean, Area X is down there. Hanobia, lots of, or however you say it, Hanabi, I don't know.
And then Branson, Missouri is really good for squatches.
Yeah, there's a ton of great spots. So, Iowa might not be as well known and might not have as much going on, but there's probably some pockets of stuff going on. So definitely really cool. Patrick says, I live in Columbus, Ohio. They're in the burbs. I've seen two. Interesting. Jonathan Dodd, what's up, man? He says, what you going to pick? Squatch pockets?
Squatch pockets.
That's cool. Jonathan is an awesome artist. You will have seen some of his art in Bigfoot at Bluff Creek, actually, and he will also be doing art for some of the upcoming other Small Town Monsters productions, from what I have been told.
Art in my film as well.
Oh, sweet. There you go. So he's getting his stuff out there. Very talented, like I said. Go check out Jonathan's stuff. Kevin says, I admit to having a PNW in Western Canada Bigfoot bias. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's for the longest time been producing a lot of the evidence, a lot of the stories, obviously, whether it's Bluff Creek or the Olympics or Mount Hood, Alberta, British Columbia. There's a long history there. Probably some of the best habitat in the entire country. But I think for a long time, other areas have been overlooked down south and even up here in the Northeast, where we have, if not the same amount of viable habitat, in some cases more, that isn't rainforest like in parts of the PNW. But there's just a lot of really cool areas, and across the country and across North America. It's a huge continent. There's a lot of territory between the U.S. and Canada that still not a lot of people live in, and
definitely.
That's kind of the cool thing about with some of the stuff we've done is go to places like that. So it's always a lot of fun to check out some of those areas. And some areas are right going up next to towns and human civilization. So there's certainly that element as well, that they maybe in some areas they're not even that far out from towns. I mean, I know a lot of the sightings up in the mountains take place in towns that are bordering big wilderness areas or right on the edge of civilization kind of thing, which makes sense. I mean, you need people to see Bigfoots. If you have no people at all, the chances of having a ton of reports is probably slim.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to have some kind of human activity, whether it be hiking or logging, camping, something like that. But there's just a lot of really interesting stuff. So I guess when you get out to places like Ohio, where there's a little bit more human population, seems like these things have maybe adapted to living a little bit closer to our the edges of our civilization. But who knows? It's all speculative at this point for the most part.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
But yeah,
who knows, man? We just gotta get out there.
It's all a guessing game. But yeah. So any plans to do anything Florida related at any point?
Nothing yet. My car is being worked on, so I had kind of carless right now. Because you remember it was probably making a weird noise, but we got that fixed. So currently I'm carless, so maybe before.
Oh, lost your audio there, Tate. Tate, we can't hear you. Tate's frozen up. I don't know what happened to Tate. Tate, we got no audio, man. Your audio just disconnected. Can you guys hear me? Is it on my end? I'm trying to figure out. I heard Tate just cut out.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah, he's back.
Robert cool. Leiterman called me, that's why.
Oh, so you got a call halfway through. Fair enough. That's
Wait,
cool,
speaking of which, too, I got to get a charger.
Okay, go for it.
Crap. Hold on.
No worries. So Kevin says, I wouldn't dismiss other areas completely, but if I had X amount of funds to do a research project, I definitely stay Northwest. Fair enough. Although I will say, I mean, Cliff Barrickman himself told me that Oregon in his example, has a lot of great habitat, but there's just so much of it that it can be tough to find areas. Whereas in his opinion, he thought areas out in Kentucky and other spots where there's less habitat and more congestion seem to be actually where a lot of evidence has been coming out of. A lot of different reports have been coming out of those areas because they're smaller. And I actually kind of tend to agree with that. We have the same problem up here in the Northeast. There's just so much woods, Maine and New Hampshire, the two forested states, most forested states in the country. You could go anywhere and there's viable habitat essentially, or habitat to move through. But then when I was looking at Colorado and Utah, they have a lot of forest, yes, but they're much more in between mountain ranges, in between desert areas. So you have these pockets where you'll just be driving through Utah or Colorado and it's an arid, high desert-like environment. All of a sudden it becomes forested, and then you drive 20 minutes and you're out of the forest and you're back in the desert. It's Eli and I experienced that in August as we were driving through these areas. It's actually pretty mind-blowing. And if you look at the BFRO and other sites, there's reports in those little pockets of forest. So maybe these things are moving around or they're staying in certain areas where the resources are there. So I almost think that those areas are great for that reason, because you can target certain spots. So Tate has his charger, so he's all good.
I hate my phone. I hate cell phones.
Because Kevin says Tate accidentally hit mute while reaching for another PBR.
It's gone. That's not another one.
Joe Purdue says Florida man got him.
No, Florida got me.
Florida man. Have you become the Florida man? Probably.
What's the criteria to be the Florida man?
I mean, I've got footage of you walking around shirtless in Laos camp that I think would qualify as Florida man. I think the criteria is you pretty much have to first wrestle an alligator, just bare hands, just go for it. That's
well, I mean,
non-negotiable.
I wrestled Eli, so that counts.
Close enough, right?
Oh my! We got it real quickly. We have to tell that story because it wasn't in the footage, and I wish it was. Bigfoot Mountain of me wrapping Eli with painter's tape. Tell it from your point of view. I want to hear you.
I don't know. I was in camp, and you wasted an entire roll of blue painter's tape, wrapping it around Eli's face as he just sat there.
I think what they called me was a bully.
Yeah, you were acting like a classic schoolyard bully.
I don't know. It was the best waste of painter's tape I've ever done in my life. It was so worth it.
As Jonathan says, Tate Hieronymus.
Tate Hieronymus. Wait, he spelled my last name wrong, Jonathan. He put.
Okay. Now you know how do you think I feel now?
Hey, you weren't the only one. I messed up Cliff Beckman's name.
Did you really? I didn't notice that one. That's good.
Yeah, it was before. I think I spelled it B-R. No, B-A-R. I forget how to spell his name now. The very end, I didn't put a C, and I put a K, and I put A-N or something.
So you fixed his name, but you didn't fix mine, huh? I see how it is.
I didn't know it was...
It's okay, Tate. I mean, we're friends, I guess.
I didn't know it was messed up.
I'm just messing with you. But Kevin responded, we were talking about the different habitats. He says, all the areas interest me. I like Northwest the most, but Oklahoma, Texas, and Florida are very intriguing as well. And of course, the areas you frequent, Alex, are also interesting. Yeah. I mean, I got to say, the Northwest for sure, some of the most beautiful terrain. I think my favorite is probably Colorado or Utah, but Washington and Oregon are right behind there. Bluff Creek. I don't know. I don't really have favorites. I think they're all just so great, but nothing beats the mountains out. Washington and even the Mountain Hood area, just something special about that area, the way it looks.
I agree.
It's super cool. Splash Boudreau says turkey hunting was introduced in New Brunswick, Canada last year, and wondering if anyone that participated had any experience similar to Kerry Arnold's from Bigfoot Odyssey. I'd be curious to know.
I have not watched Bigfoot Odyssey in quite a long time. I'm overdue.
Yeah, I haven't seen any new stuff either, but Kerry's story is super cool. I mean, I've had him on the show talking about it. I'm sure people have seen him talk about it on his show and elsewhere. What an encounter. I mean, totally wild. Joe says Appalachia is a gold mine for biodiverse forest habitats. Totally is. All up and down the Appalachian mountain range. I mean, we're here in New Hampshire. I'm in the northern kind of terminus of the Appalachians, but down where Joe's at in West Virginia, Ohio, that kind of area, tons of reports coming out of there. I mean, Ohio is one of those states that broke the mold of Bigfoot's just a Northwest thing. That's also in other parts of the country.
That's probably where one of the more famous and well-known like vocal audio of Bigfoot came out of was the Ohio Howl, and that was actually recorded by Moneymaker.
That was, yeah. And we were actually a county, and Mothman 46 can probably correct me on this, but I believe that was the county over from where we were in Ohio at the beginning of the month at the Minerva, with the Minerva monster case. I think that's the county over. And that eastern part of Ohio, that goes basically on the border of Pennsylvania. Not far from there, you got the Chestnut Ridge that goes up into the Alleghenies. So many great stories. And I talked to a few people in Whitehall this weekend from Pennsylvania who are from that area that had some weird stuff going on, had talked about experiences in that area. So there's good spots all over.
There's one thing I wanted to talk to you about, because this is going to actually be in my film. So, but I think, and I'm not speaking for anybody else, but anyway, I want to talk about your thoughts about Laird Meadow, what was thrown at us, because I did not show this in my film or film it, but it was really interesting because Ron Reed and I and another friend of ours went out to Laird Meadow like the day you guys left, I believe, and we were looking around kind of behind where you and I were standing that night, and sure enough, we found rocks about this big, pretty big around, just all over the area. But I mean, I feel like something was thrown at us. I don't think something fell. I think something was tossed our way.
The audio is very strange. It sounds like something is...
It was like thrown and then stepped on, or stepped on then thrown.
Or something was thrown and knocked over a branch that fell over, because there was a sequence of noises that seemingly happened.
And that was like directed at us because we were right there too.
Yeah. I'm trying to see. Oh man, I don't think I have that.
I remember you got freaked out. You kind of like moved forward towards the meadow.
Yeah, it's funny because I was in the...
You were sitting down, I was standing up. You were kind of like behind this tree.
Yep.
And I was like kind of on the edge of the tree line into the meadow. My phone was actually on a tripod just a few feet in front of me recording audio. You were recording audio.
Well, that's why my audio was so clear, because I had it on a tree behind me and I was leaned up against the log, and this thing happened maybe, I don't know, 40, 50 feet in the tree line behind me. So that's why I moved. I was kind of like, well, okay, I've got my back to the woods. There you go.
There's something there. And I don't think it was a four-legged animal, in my opinion, at all.
Yeah. Now, I do have that clip. I don't know how loud it's going to play. I don't have my clip in a video file.
Just do it. Just go for it, man.
But I do have the one that you had, so I don't know how well we're going to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, there was definitely something there. And you know what? Honestly, like I can tell you guys this because we had so much stuff that happened. I believe from all the fires that have been going on recently, like because you had some in the northern part, because you guys didn't you guys go to you guys did go up to oh god, what is it? Not Burnt Ranch, Happy Camp.
Yeah, Eli actually drove through Happy Camp on his way back.
Okay, so yeah, Happy Camp had a fire a few years ago. And then when we were going out there, there was a fire kind of in Shasta. So you had like fires above Bluff Creek and to the east of Bluff Creek. So I think a lot of those fires are kind of like, pushed a lot of animals towards the coast, more into the Bluff Creek region than there probably has been in a while. Because I saw a bear out there when we were driving back. We saw
Right.
foxes, we saw deer. There was definitely birds. Things we talked about this on your podcast here a couple weeks ago or a while ago about, I think Ron's dog acted weird. We talked about
Yeah.
that. The stuff the rock slide that happened. The sounds at Laird Meadow. Just
Here,
a
actually,
whole,
I prepared a little clip of the other one. This was from my audio of that same thing being thrown / falling. So you'll be able to hear it a lot better here.
Let's do it.
So you could hear that. You could hear the initial. There's 3 sounds basically, and I'll play it again from that area. You could almost hear something hit twice and then fall a little after that. So
Wait,
interesting.
Play the rest.
Sure. I hear us saying something's behind us. That was my first reaction because it came from right behind us.
That was the weirdest. That was probably the weirdest thing that I've heard in Bluff Creek that's happened to me there. I mean, I think the rock slide would be the first thing, and this would be the second.
Yeah, it was odd. And as Jonathan says, right after Stevie did a howl too, Howl triggered the stick rock throw, in my opinion.
So I'm pretty sure that's what it was because I remember we were there for an hour or so, not doing anything. It was, and there was no wind at all. And I'm pretty sure you can attest to that.
Yeah, definitely.
So we radioed to our road crew. We had 2 crews. There was Eli and Alex pretty much just directly across from us in the meadow. Then you and I were in the meadow too. And then we had a road crew go up the road. There's about 4 or 5 of them together.
Yeah.
And we radioed them to do a call, and Stevie did an Ohio howl. And probably I feel like 5 minutes after that.
It wasn't that long. Yeah, it was after that.
And then we had a really faint knock in that same direction further behind us.
Yeah, so there was something going on, and it was just such a quiet night. That's what was so remarkable about it. Mothman asks, is the Bluff Creek area a Bureau of Land Management property or privately owned? It's part of the 6 Rivers National Forest, right?
Yeah.
It's not the Trinity, because the Trinity's further south, right?
Trinity is further south, yes.
So basically that entire area of Northern California, you get away from the coast, it's entirely federally owned. So yeah, I think, it's the Forest Service, but there might be some Bureau of Land Management stuff there as well. I don't know how that works with the federal agencies. I know there's, but it's definitely the National Forest Service because that area is entirely under the 6 Rivers National Forest jurisdiction. So not private land or anything. It's basically there's nothing really up there at all.
And that's the other thing too about that area is, I think you commented on this that night. You're like, because you guys were following me out to Bluff Creek because I've been up there many times, and I think you said like the way you heard it described is you were thinking it's kind of like off the road by Orleans, which is the nearest town to.
So I thought Louse Camp would be. I thought Louse Camp was in, and you have to drive further in to get to the film site.
So no, so from Willow Creek to Orleans, which is the road you take to get just to start headed out there, really is about 40 something miles. It's about an hour drive because those roads are really windy in one lane the whole way. Just from Orleans to get off that like just a paved like non-main road is probably to get from there to Louse Camp is another hour or something like that. Maybe even slower depending on the car you're driving. So
right,
it's further out there than people actually realize. So, and this was something commented on the or something Steven Strufert said in the movie Willow Creek. He's like, it's not technically wilderness. It's technically wilderness, basically.
Yeah,
but I can't remember the question. I had it in my head, but I butchered it.
No worries. No, I get the point. I mean, it really is. It's wild out there, and we've talked about it plenty of times on this show. And I know we talked about it on your podcast over in Bluff Creek Project podcast in camp when we did that interview. Just how our initial impressions were, wow, this place is completely wild. It's out here. It's far out here. You can get seriously messed up out there. You can fall off the side of a cliff, never be seen again. Probably eaten. within, the next couple hours, you'll probably, something
And
will start eating you.
that's the funny thing, and not to like, okay, I'm going to anyway. People like on the Bigfoot at Bluff Creek for Small Town Monsters been on the trail. They're like, "Oh, this place isn't wild or anything," and I'm laughing my head off because I'm thinking, you're saying that. It's one thing saying that to get in a car. It's easy to get there. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie, but you say
Well,
that
I mean,
with a
it
flat
is,
tire.
but you can get tires out. Yeah.
You say that with a flat tire, and then that's a whole different. You're singing a whole different tune.
Yeah. I mean, there are for sure wilder areas in, California. I mean, just, you could go a couple miles away from the road there at Louse Camp. You'd have to hike in there. There's physically no other way to get in there unless you get lifted in by helicopter or you hike in.
If you were to
And
hike
it's
out
rough
from
terrain.
if you were to hike out from Louse Camp to just Highway 93 by Orleans, I think you're looking at 2.5 days of hiking.
Oh, for sure. And that's the thing. It's basically the road,
Even by
in
road.
Louse Camp is the only little sliver of human civilization in that area. Anywhere, the road is just surrounded by thousands upon thousands of acres of rough wilderness that's inhabited by mountain lions, and one of the largest concentrations of black bear in that area, as Rowdy Kelly was showing us. And the Bluff Creek Project trail cameras reflect that with the amount of pictures of mountain lions and so many different generations of bear and other animals that walk in the same film site that Patty walked, and that all the people who visit there walk. So
They call
it's wild.
They called the Patterson-Gilman site Bigfoot Bear Highway.
Bear Highway.
I think on the trail cameras, there's like bears coming through there all the time, and there's mountain lions walking through there all the time. It's definitely a wild area, and every time I've gone up there, it's like, I say this all the time, I always see at least one bear every time I've been up there.
Yeah. You guys had one run in front of the road up there. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it on video, but it's very small, so you can't see it. But
I mean, they go so quick. I was in the car with Jonathan behind you,
you
Tate,
and Eli was with me,
and you guys had the bear run, and we stopped. And like, oh, why the heck are these guys stopping? And like, oh, we saw a bear across the road. Like, that's really cool.
I saw 3 bears the same trip one time up there.
Crazy.
Big fat black bears, man.
Yeah, well, we saw on the trail cameras that Rowdy took off of at the film site, there was dozens of bear, and they would all come up and scratch their back in the same tree. It was right in where the film site was.
Yep, it's definitely a place if something like that can survive out there, I don't know how Bigfoot couldn't.
Oh, it's perfect habitat, and as we know, one of the last places really penetrated by humans in the lower 48 was that area of Northern California. It just always remained wild.
And that's the other thing too about the area is like other Bigfooters and people are like, why do you go to Bluff Creek all the time? I'm like, there's Bigfoot's
tapped out,
you know what? It may be to techniques, but at the same time, they still live in that area full time and they get bored.
Right.
And we credit them with a certain sense of intelligence. So we don't think they're dumber than a bear. We don't think they're as dumb as a bear or deer. We definitely think they're smarter than that. So I think they're hip to our techniques up there, but I do think they still mess with you. Just because they don't respond to you or do anything doesn't mean they're not there. They guarantee you they're there. But
well, that's you hear all the strange reports over the years, like especially at Louse Camp, and that's something I believe I was talking to somebody about this over the weekend at the Whitehall Festival, because we were talking about Bluff Creek, and actually I was talking about the film. What changed my mind about, not changed my mind, but another factor in my head about the PG film is the fact that they could have gone outside of Willow Creek, just 2 minutes outside of town, if they had a suit, and filmed it right there. Yet they chose to, on horseback, get out to this area. Let's say hypothetically they had a suit, and if it's the way Bob Hieronymus described it, there was a headpiece and there were waders because he was only 5'11", so all this kind of stuff. Whereas Patty's 7 something. So they took all this equipment out on horseback in 1967 to this area, which would have been slightly more wild than it is today. It's still very wild. They did that all to do this Bigfoot footage. I mean, like I said, they could have done that outside of Willow Creek and it would have looked pretty similar, but they chose to go to this really remote location, which perplexes me. But as I said, I think just connecting back to that Bluff Creek area, you have only a limited amount of time that people are even in that area yearly, though, right? It's closed for most of the winter. They don't open it until
It's
almost
like
May or June in some instances.
yeah, sometimes June sometimes.
Because there's gates, so I guess if you have a motorcycle, you could go around the gate, but if you got a car, you can't get in to get to Louse Camp. And then you have a few summer months, a couple months in the fall, and they probably lock that down in November, December. When do they put the gate up?
Usually, actually sooner, October usually.
October. So these things, if they're in that area, Louse Camp,
They have like from
probably
October to June for
right,
the whole
and
area.
so
Unless you're
Louse Camp only has probably 2 or 3 weekends that entire year where you have a dozen people there, right? There's the Bluff Creek get together, maybe the Hoopa.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the Hoopa, because there was a guy that was servicing the porta potty out there in
Yep.
Louse Camp, and I think he said, yeah, like every July, the Hoopa people always have a big blowout here in Louse Camp. Because that makes sense. It seems like there's so much stuff in Louse Camp kind of left over from the Hoopa, which is kind of weird. But
Right. But like I said, that is the only times you have large groups of people there. That's when we got that suspicious whoop, was when everyone was in Louse Camp, all those people there. So you only have a few weekends where there's a bunch of people. So maybe that attracts attention, and these things come in and are hanging out and checking it out. And we know there's a long history. You can't hear anything when you're down in camp because of the creek.
the creek's really,
works.
that creek's really loud.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's still active. The habitat's perfect. I don't understand the idea of it being tapped out. Plus, you take into account the forest fires in other areas that are maybe pushing things more towards that area.
Yeah, it's probably the only area where it has good habitat for food, cover, fresh water. And I just think they'd be in that area even more so than now because everything is burnt up.
Well, what is it that term
even just south of Willow Creek just got burnt up recently? Because there's a fire just south of Willow Creek by Heinz Stevens Bigfoot store.
Yeah, I mean, what is it that term that Cliff uses? Is it the halibut effect or something like that? You know what I'm talking about? So forget the word. It's basically what he says is that essentially, if the resources are still there, if the area remains unchanged, Sasquatches will probably stay in the same area generation after generation. That's probably true in Bluff Creek. It seems to be true in Ape Canyon from what Mark Merzell says. They had whoops and they've had stuff going on down there while finding the original campsite. We're talking 100 years later. These could be the descendants of those animals that attacked the cabin. Other areas, they seem to have consistent behavior over the years. So I don't see why not.
Why would you change your fishing hole if the fishing hole is good?
Right. Oh, exactly. No, perfect. If it's not depleted, if it's still providing, keep it up.
We know there's food out there even for because Bigfoots can survive on other things besides animals if they have to. And
right.
To give a good example of that, when we were hiking up with Rowdy Kelly back to the trucks, we were literally eating wild berries.
Yeah, we were.
Off different number of plants.
That was, and we were trying them. Some were sweeter, some were more tart, some were sour. Really cool. And again, I always go back to this point. If an area can support bears or moose or elk, big animals of that nature, I think they could support a Sasquatch. I mean, those other animals, they're huge. I mean, moose and elk are gigantic.
And that's the other thing. People are like, oh, they can't survive out there. But I mean, don't think about it as a mythical or something like a mythical creature or something like that. Think of it as an actual animal. They're not that much bigger than a bear, like as far as body mass and weight.
Well, I say that because people act as, they say the Bigfoots are definitely the largest creatures out there. And I say, well, honestly, I'd probably say a moose is bigger. This thing's got 1,200 pounds.
As far as muscle is concerned, I think a grizzly bear could easily overtake a Bigfoot, in my opinion.
Who knows?
Again, like you said, moose or bear.
Well, the bear point, right?
Yeah, it's not that far. It's not that far out of range of
what we saw. All those trail camera pictures from Rowdy. There was such a buildup of bears, and he said that area of Northern California has one of the highest concentrations of
black bear
in the country. So it's supporting a large number of predators. you're telling me that these other ones couldn't. I don't know. I mean, it's obviously all speculative, but I do kind of get weirded out by that comment. People saying, "Oh, Bluff Creek is tapped out. It's been overplayed," and I don't know. I mean,
it's tapped out too. It's tapped out to a sense of
some ways, but not totally.
No, not totally. I think they're there and they do mess with you, but I think as far as like, if you want to go have an experience,
it's probably more subtle, maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely more subtle. But if you want to like hear something or have something call back, go to areas that aren't well known, because Bluff Creek is so scrutinized, analyzed. It's been researched tons of times with TV shows, researchers, and so like Cliff has even said, "There's something like Finding Bigfoot," and other people will say it. Like when Bigfoots kind of get hip to what you're doing and everything, all those techniques, they're not going to forget. They're going to remember that, especially if everybody's doing it the same time of year every year.
Everyone's doing knocks or whoops. Yeah, no, it makes sense. As Rasta Locke says, Bluff Creek is a legendary area, or is legendary. I'd hang there too. Mothman 46 says Bluff Creek is the Graceland of Squatchers. Definitely on my bucket list. For sure.
Was it you? Somebody said Bluff Creek was like the Vatican of the Bigfoot world.
Pilgrimage site. Kevin says, yep, that place in Ape Canyon would be great to visit. Totally. Ape Canyon's on my list as well. Same. Raptor Blue asks, does anybody know the last sighting out of Bluff Creek? The last one I'm aware of, and unless you know otherwise, would be probably Bobo's. I don't know.
I think mine.
No? Well, okay. Yeah, let's talk. Why don't you just share that then?
So it was actually because Bobo had his before I was ever out there. Mine was 2015. Bobo's was earlier, I believe. Because I think you interviewed him about it. So it was my first time out there. We were camping in Laos camp. It was me, my dad, and two other friends. So me, my dad, and one friend was in a tent. And then my other friend was in his tent. So you know where that dead snag is, I call Widowmaker out in Laos camp.
Yeah.
That you guys were camped at. Our tent was right there. And I was sleeping facing towards that Widowmaker tree. And so to the right of me, I'd have the trail down out of the creek. And to the left of me, I'd have the road. So facing that tree, I saw a shadowy figure, and skinny in profile. I'm trying to like do it for the camera. Come up like this, and then turn back, and went the same way it came from. And I'm thinking, shadows don't do that if it's moonlight off trees and everything, because it's going to go one way the whole time, not the same way it came from. And then I ended up actually recording audio on my phone the whole night, before I went to bed. And I heard something walking around our camp. Definitely heard faint knocks and whoops. So something did come around our camp that night, and it was humanoid, and it wasn't anybody else, and there was nobody else in there that night at all.
Yeah, well, didn't was it Stevie had a sighting of something that they thought was you changing a tire? This was pretty recent. I remember it was in Jonathan's video.
I guess that was the last. Well, he said last camp, right? Or Bluff Creek.
That would have been 2019 or 2020?
2020. Yeah, 2020.
Okay, so that was last summer.
Yep.
That's on one of Jonathan's videos. Okay.
Yeah, I guess that was. I mean, it could have been.
Yeah, he said it was a possibility. They thought it was you changing a tire, but they're wondering why.
So that's the problem. I mean, I believe them, but at the same, it's hard to believe. I don't know. Now I'm sounding skeptic when I want to be the guy, but
no, yeah, it's definitely interesting. Mothman says, I live in a densely populated area, and bears and coyotes and various other wildlife still come through. No such thing as tapped out in a free roving population. Yeah. No, I mean, I live in a kind of suburban area, but we still get moose that come out from the woods, which are only 15, 20 minutes out. So animals find a way.
If you're seeing deer like in cities, it's not far-fetched from other animals to be that far into the city, but sometimes other animals are a little smarter than deer. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Mothman 46 says, I just drove by the spot of the Ohio howl. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. There's a reason deer get hit by cars and bears don't.
There you go.
Bears are a little smarter, but you can see them in this areas. Man.
Right, and Bigfoots are probably smarter than bear.
So yeah, I would say so.
Right on. Joe says Ape Canyon is nice. Camp there for a bit on the rim of a not so much mountain that shall be not named for legal reasons. Yeah, I want to get to Ape Canyon. We have plans to hopefully get there at some point soon because it looks like a gnarly spot too. But yeah, no, Bluff Creek is awesome. But so that a lot of that is in your film, obviously Bluff Creek and all the other areas we talked about. So it's definitely awesome.
Yeah, I would say the sleep paralysis portion of the film is actually my favorite part of the film and the whole thing.
So what's the idea behind that?
I actually have sleep paralysis, so I really wanted to talk about it. And I think this is a new kind of area that people should look into when researching Bigfoot as far as misidentification is going. I think it could be a way to rule out certain sightings. Like you could be asking questions. So like symptoms of sleep paralysis, you can't move, can't speak. You have like it feels like you're a hard time breathing. You can only like move your eyes. Sometimes you hallucinate with sleep paralysis. And what's funny is like my film that I wrote all the narration. Jonathan actually helped tweak a little few words here and there, but for the most part, a lot of it is still mine. So I wrote the whole sleep paralysis narration in a way it would make a lot more sense than I can explain it now. But I do believe that some Bigfoot researchers can be subjected to sleep paralysis given the right circumstances. And with an episode of sleep paralysis, like I said, you can hallucinate. So maybe in a Bigfoot research area, you hallucinate, you see something, you think it's a Bigfoot, then you're like, there was definitely something here. And for people who believe they're spiritual, like, dude, it was holding me down, I couldn't see it, and it was doing that, because some people believe in mind speak. But who knows? Yeah,
no, it's definitely, I think it's an interesting topic that I haven't heard really talked about at all in terms of Bigfoot research or just connecting. I mean, not a lot of people would connect those two things. So that is pretty cool. As Mothman46 says, I can't wait to delve into your sleep paralysis hypothesis, Mr. Tate. # very intriguing. Definitely is. Yeah. I mean, it's been a really awesome discussion. That I love the whole Bluff Creek tangent we just went on. That was cool.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, it's just that's how much of a memorable area it is, though. I mean, that's why
I think Bluff Creek is like my favorite. I mean, I got two tracks from like the Bluff Creek. This is given to me or made for me by a friend. I can't say who for reasons, but this is probably one of the more famous.
I love that cast. That's probably my favorite Patty cast because it shows that foot movement as opposed to the one that I have in the background over here.
This one.
Let me grab my cast here.
Nerding out.
So this is the one that I was given. That's kind of that famous classic Patty. This one is a Patterson Gimlin. This is an actual copy. So of a copy of an original. So this is a second gen. But yeah, so look at that. So what's so cool about the Patterson film is just how many different tracks come from it. You've got, but that one you have, the one you have is probably my favorite. That one with that shows that mid-tarsal break in there.
Oh, I think that one's by far my favorite too. This is my most favorite one of my collection.
It's just, yeah, and that's what's so cool about.
It's the one you see in a lot more photographs and TV shows because it's
right.
Like, what was it? What was his name that photographed it? I can't think of the name, but it'll come to me later.
But what was so cool about Bob Titmus being there after the film was taken was the fact that he basically saw all the tracks, and from what I understand, Roger Patterson only liked the good tracks. So the tracks like this that looked, perfect, he wanted to cast those. And then Titmus said, no, you want to cast the ones that also
like
show
the
movement,
one I just showed here. Yeah,
which is why I like that one that you have. I got to get myself a copy of that one. I'm trying to put this cast down and not break it.
and it
'cause it's
was like
super
I think
fragile.
that was it was the coolest experience. So Robert Leiderman, I haven't posted the episode yet. He interviewed Steven Strufert because they're in the fires. They were saying, I think Tate said save the Bigfoot cast from the China Flats Museum. And Steven's like, yeah, Tate went to go see those with a few other guys before or earlier, not too long
Before
ago.
all that stuff happened. Yeah, that was, we
He's like-
had good timing when we went up.
He's like, imagine, he's like, those are the original tracks, and those are the original tracks from the film site. They had debris and everything in them.
Yep.
And Steven's comment on it was like, imagine looking at tracks of Jesus or something. It's kind of like that.
Kind of comparable. Yeah.
So but I think the word that I used was, this is giving me a semi-boner holding these original tracks.
As Jonathan says, comparing casts. And Joe actually says, agree with that 100%, Tate. There are lots of various psychological issues that can explain so many different sightings, experiences, especially the late at night stuff. I've had this happen to me too, as you were talking about. And I interviewed Kip Morrill. He talked about something he thought maybe could have been possibly a dream, but he's pretty sure it happened where it smacked the top of his tent. I had an experience in Maine camping with a buddy where I swear there was like a silhouette that came up and was standing over the tent, but I'm pretty sure it was a dream. I don't think it actually happened.
So that's like the thing.
That's what's so tough.
I don't believe in the spiritual. I believe they're a natural being, like a deer, bear.
Right.
So I don't think there is any weird thing going on. Plus, other things in my background kind of involve in my research. You know, I put into my research and things I believe and don't believe in the subject.
Sure.
And so, like sleep paralysis, I know it's a natural thing that's actually common, and there's nothing paranormal about it. It's a real thing that actually happens to more people than you would think.
Right.
So I think that's all it is.
No, I mean, it's a totally interesting angle for sure. As Mothman says, Patty Prince equals awkward wood.
No,
it was a cool experience seeing those tracks and everything, but yeah, you know, another Bluff Creek tangent. Anyway, yeah. So again, for people that want to check out this film, so October 20th is when it's coming out, and it's going to be out on your YouTube channel
for free. Yes.
Yeah, so it'll be out there, and I'll link in the description below. Will be linked to Tate's YouTube channel as well as the Bigfoot at Bluff Creek Project podcast YouTube channel will be linked to Tongue Twister.
It really is. Oh, and real quickly, just want to plug in. Robert Leiderman is finishing up the Bluff Creek Project book, the journey of Patterson Gimlin journey of rediscovery, something like that. I'm butchering the name, sorry, but it's gonna show all like maps and stuff they drew and photos and all that cool stuff about how they found the film site. And that book's coming out, I think, in October.
That is so cool. I can't wait to get a copy. That's awesome because they rediscovered the film site. It had been lost for countless years until they found it. And I don't think there's anybody that knows that site better than Robert and Rowdy and those guys. So props to them.
Exactly. That'll be on Amazon. So
cool. Awesome. Kevin says, good thing this is winding down. Tate hasn't had a beer in the last 5 minutes. He must be parched.
I think I'm due for a fifth.
There you go. Yeah, thanks guys. Thank you, Peggy, for that super sticker. Kevin says, good show. Tate is a fun cat. Definitely. Mothman says, great show, boys. Rasta Locke says, awesome stuff. Thank you. So yeah, again, guys, links will be posted in the comment or in the description to Tate's social media, kind of YouTube, that sort of stuff. And then I will also post the links to both Bigfoot at Bluff Creek and Bigfoot Mountain, since Tate is in both of those. And we talked a lot about the Bluff Creek stuff. So if you're watching this in retrospect and you want to check out those episodes, they will be linked below, and they're a lot of fun to watch. So, I mean, I'm biased obviously, but
No, I agree.
I think a lot of people are enjoying them. We have a lot of fun making them, and it's cool to be able to then come on stuff like this and talk about some of the stuff we had happen and share some of those experiences with everybody. So, yeah, just a reminder, folks, this Thursday on the channel, Lions of the East will be coming out. So stay tuned for that. Next week, we'll be talking to Jonathan Easley. So I feel we'll probably be talking about a lot of the same stuff again, talking about Bluff Creek, but he's going to be talking about the Sierras as well, because he spent a lot of time down in the Sierra Nevadas, and haven't really talked to anyone about that on this show yet. And we talk about the Sierra Sounds a lot. You know, there's the Sierra Kills kind of story and everything. So Jonathan is a super awesome dude, and it'll be awesome to have him on.
I can promise you right now, just a teaser, he's got some cool stuff.
Oh, for sure. He's the man. Tate will be in the comments smashing PBRs, and definitely he'll be back. So Brian says, take care all. See you later, Brian. I got to message you back, man. I haven't replied to your message from a while ago. My bad. It's been crazy lately. Peggy says, have a great week, everyone. Absolutely, you as well. And Joe says, awesome show as always. Thank you, Joe. And actually, we're going to be doing a Clubhouse thing this coming Thursday.
On the 30th.
Thursday night. Yeah, Thursday night. Tate, myself, and a couple other people will be on Clubhouse talking about Bigfoot research. If you happen to be on Clubhouse in the Bigfoot Society or Cryptozoology Club, come and hang out with us at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, I believe, if you want. Otherwise, yeah. But all the other stuff I mentioned, check it out as well. And thank you, Tate, for coming on again, man.
For sure.
Awesome to have you, bro. Well, take it easy, guys. Have a great rest of your week, folks, and we will see you guys all next week. Bye-bye.